Every man wants to feel like the man in his relationship, that strong, grounded, masculine presence who can lead, who can provide, who can protect, and who can create that safe space for his partner and for his family to thrive in. However, when you've been used to living as the nice guy, and this has become your identity, doing these things can feel incredibly difficult. And so in this video, I want to sort of break down why the nice guy does struggle to lead and how this is actually not a relationship issue in and of itself. That is actually a symptom of some deeper underlying fears and stories and identities that are at play. And if we don't address those things, then you will continue to see the same issues and have the same struggles in your relationship. Now, if you're new here, there's a couple of videos back where I really deep dive into the nice guy identity as a whole. I break down the whole mask so you understand why it's there, what's actually happening, and how to get rid of it. So if you haven't watched that, I would highly recommend you pausing this video and going to watch that. But again, I'll give you the cliff notes, because the nice guy at his core simply believes that he is not enough, that he is not worthy, that he is not lovable. And this usually comes from something in his childhood or in his past where he was his true, authentic self. He put that, his entire self out there, but you're either rejected or mocked or shamed or abandoned, or you were basically shown that it was not safe to be yourself. Right? We then add in the conditioning of the world where we are brought up to learn what is good, what is bad, right? When we are good and when we be a certain version of ourselves and we do the right thing, we get the validation, we get the reassurance, we're accepted into society, and we receive the love, right? These are all things that we desire as humans. And if we're bad, right, we are rejected, we're laughed at, we're mocked, we're pushed out of the tribe. And so you create this people-pleasing mask and identity and belief from a very young age. And if this isn't challenged as we progress through our life, this is what eventually can lead to us being the nice guy. So when we take this into our relationships and we look at it through the lens of, okay, I'm really struggling to lead here. I'm struggling to make decisions. I'm struggling to actually put myself first, voice my concerns, my opinions, my truths, my desires, my needs, all because I'm trying to avoid conflict. Right? Very likely you fear conflict. You don't want to have an argument with your partner. You don't want your partner to get in a bit of a bad mood or have any possibility where she sees you as the bad guy or the enemy, or again, you just have that disagreement, because that feels inherently unsafe to the nice guy, right? Because again, you were taught this is the way you need to be to receive love and acceptance and validation and whatever else. And so when it comes to your relationship, you're like, okay, well, the only way that I can receive that, the only way that I can actually keep her around is if I do that, if I people please, if I wear the mask, if I avoid conflicts. Because as soon as that happens, she might see this part of me that I've been taught to push down. And if she sees that, she's going to see that I'm not good enough and she's going to want to leave. So we will manage everything about our relationship. We will manage her mood. We will manage how we show up as men. We will water ourselves down, all because we have this deeply embedded fear of rejection, this fear of abandonment, this fear of being alone. Because again, in your mind, whether you logically know it's not true or not, this relationship and your partner, she holds your self-worth, right? She holds your ability to receive love. She holds your identity in the palm of her hands, right? Because very likely you feel really good and confident when she's happy and she's affectionate and she's loving and you guys are really, really good. And conversely, when she's not and she's upset or she needs space or whatever it is, you instantly start to feel anxious. You go into people pleaser mode. You go into fix it mode because you need to get that back, get her mood back to being happy, because that's how you can feel safe, right? You remove that fear of rejection and that fear of abandonment if you can control the situation. Now, this becomes a real problem in our relationship, because if we are outsourcing our worth to our partner and to the relationship as a whole, and our main priority is just to not lose that, we are acting from such a place of fear, right? We are not acting as that masculine presence. We're not going to be able to remain grounded, and we're actually going to start to lose her trust, because she's going to pick up that she is the source of our worth, right? Our partner, our wife, our family, our kids deserve a man who can stand on his own 2 feet, who can be confident and convicted in who he is no matter what is going on around him, that has the body, that has the faith and connection with God, that has the purpose, the business or career, the friendship circle, the hobbies, that he can lean on outside of them to remain okay and to remain worthy. right? So if you're trying to show up in your relationship and you're struggling to lead, and again, you're trying to avoid conflict, understand you are doing this because of that fear of rejection. Because you're like, well, if I actually stand up for myself, if I actually push back, or I lead this hard conversation, what if she doesn't like that? And if she doesn't like that, then, well, she's going to leave. And if she leaves, then see, I'm unlovable. I'm not good enough, right? There is pain associated with that. And that will just be another chink in the armor of this underlying story that you are not enough, which as a human, we obviously want to avoid. And so we sort of have two problems here, because not only are you not honoring yourself, right? You're not being the man that you want to be. So of course it's going to feel like there's some imposter syndrome when you go to lead and to do all these things, because you literally are acting as the imposter, right? You're not being your true self. But if we then base our whole relationship from this very fear-based state, we're going to end up creating a self-fulfilling prophecy, because your entire focus every day you wake up is, okay, how can I just not lose her? Or how can I show up today in order to keep her happy? How can I, you overthink, you overanalyze, you overcompensate when you might have said the wrong thing, or she needs space, and you start spiraling and you try to control everything. These are all very fear-based responses. And as the man that is supposed to be that grounded, beautiful, strong presence in the relationship, right? Those two things cannot coexist. So we just have all these different problems just feeding off of one another. And again, this doesn't really have anything to do with your partner. This comes back to this underlying story, I call it your core story, that states that you are not enough. And so because you're not enough, this is who you need to be, right? This is the only way you can keep her, because if you're not enough and you let her all the way in and she sees the real you, right, i.e. voicing your opinions or your needs or your desires or things that you want to talk about that may potentially create a bit of conflict, right? If she sees that, she's going to see you're not good enough and she's going to leave. And so that is just the worst case scenario of the nice guy. So you manipulate yourself, you wear this mask, you don't say the things you want to say, you become a yes man when you want to say no. And slowly over time, again, the relationship is built on a foundation of fear. She's actually not getting the real you. She's going to see through that. There's going to be that loss of trust, that loss of connection, that loss of intimacy. And then from your perspective, how are you supposed to live your life and be the man that God has you here to be if she and that relationship is the source and holds your self-worth? Right? If you can't be okay on your 2 feet, and just one little change of mood from her can impact the way you see yourself and the way you show up, that relationship is not going to end in the way that you want it to end. Right? We take this into fatherhood and being the role model for our kids. Like, are these the things that we want to pass on to our kids? Right? We need to set the example. And it's really easy, and I get it, because I was this guy too, right? I was the nice guy, crippling body dysmorphia, insecurity, self-doubt, a lot of relationships that I attracted definitely as more of the feminine man, right? I was always very in touch with my emotions and feelings, and I was the people pleaser. I was the nice guy, because I thought that was a badge of honor. I just wanted to keep her happy all the time and bow down to her and not make decisions because I wanted her to be happy, right? But there's a difference between being a good man to keep her happy and worshiping the ground she stands on. That is a strong masculine kind of trait. But when we do that as a means to an end to make sure we have our worth attached to something, and so we don't lose her, right? And so we cover up and protect ourselves from this not good enough story, and we do so through wearing this mask, that is where we run into problems. Right? I had so many problems in my relationships, not really ever my partner's fault. Obviously there's nuance to that, but I can look back and I can see a common thread through the majority, if not all of my relationships in the past, where I was the nice guy, and I was doing so because I was so deeply scared of her leaving, because I'd placed a definition on what that would mean for me. If she leaves and I'm back on my own, then I'm just confirming that I'm not enough, that I'm unlovable, that I'm never going to find my person, right? Especially as someone who, my biggest desire is to be a husband and a father. And so I would just manipulate myself to make sure I kept the relationship, and I would prefer to do that instead of actually honoring myself and standing strong in myself and working on myself to a point where I could detach from whether that relationship stayed around, which obviously I wanted, or if it left, right? And if that was a result of me honoring myself and being me, then that was something that I was happy to wear. That's something that I'm now happy to wear. So brother, again, I'll start to wrap up here, but yeah, if you're having trouble leading, if you're having trouble stepping out of this people pleaser of always worrying about her leaving or her rejecting you, like, it's all good. It's okay, it happens. You're not broken, there's nothing wrong with you. But understand that you're not going to find the solution to this in another relationship. You're not going to find this by burying your head deeper in the sand and wearing this mask more and more and more. This is a you thing. Right? And so again, this is the work that I do inside the Proving Ground with my clients. We need to understand, okay, where did this nice guy mask start from? Like, what was the moment? Was there something you can put your finger on where you basically were shown that you were not enough in some way? Right? Once we understand what that is, we don't need to sit and dwell there. We don't need to dig into it like a lot of therapists will have you do, because a man needs to be building something. He needs to be leading. He needs to be having some sort of impact and have something to work towards. And so if we are constantly focused on the problem and where it started, and that's the only place we live, right? Because men just need to talk more, right? In isolation, it's actually really terrible advice. But we take where this started, we understand why that mask is there. We understand why you show up in your relationship with this fear. But then we get to work on rebuilding that, right? We undo the conditioning that you've been brought up into, the people pleaser mask that I mentioned. We rebuild your self-image from the inside out. So these are your belief systems, your identity, your stories, your language, the way in which you see yourself and the world. And then we go out and build evidence that you are who you say you are, right? So we bring in the physical transformation, get into epic shape. We deepen your relationship and connection with God. So your identity is rooted in God's word and not in the world. And whether it's launching a business or trying to progress in your career or having that purpose to really fulfill you every day, something to building a legacy, business, and impact, whatever it might be, doing all these things. So ultimately, you become the kind of man that you know your value, you know your worth. And so then when it comes to a relationship standpoint, because again, that is a symptom, you are now able to show up as the man that she wants, as the man your kids deserve, the one who's worthy, who's confident, who's convicted, who can lead the hard conversations, and who isn't going to be manipulated by his partner's mood to dictate how he shows up, right? That is the feminine. The feminine is naturally chaotic and emotional, and that's one of the most beautiful parts about it. But it takes a man who is grounded in himself to be able to hold that and create a safe space for that, be the man that she deserves. And when you are that man and you can honestly say that and believe that in yourself, that is naturally going to flow into your relationship, into your body, and into your life as a whole. Okay, brother. So again, doesn't matter how long you've been dealing with this. I've had people that have come to me with, 50 years of imposter syndrome. We've gotten rid of it in 3 weeks. I've had a guy jump on the other day who we had, one deep dive conversation, not even 2 days in, and he was already completely seeing things in such a different paradigm shifting way, right? This work is actually very simple, but it's going to take you taking action and jumping into this and being like, okay, this is not me. This is not good enough story. This is not me, because I have goals, I have a vision, I have a family to lead, provide, and protect. I have a beautiful wife to be there for. I have kids to be the role model to. Okay, and none of this stuff can happen properly, right, in what God actually has for you until you shift these underlying stories. You remove the nice guy mask and you truly become the man that your family and future can depend on. All right, brother, so there's a few options. As I said, there's a bunch of other videos on my page. I also have a full 60-minute training into the nice guy mask that you can purchase as sort of the first little step into my world. There'll be some details down below, but that's $29 USD for the 60-minute training. Or if you're like, hey, I want help with this, right? I want to become the man that my family and future can depend on. You want to work on the identity, the inner world, the stories, the body, the faith, the business, all these different things, then I invite you to join the Proving Ground. Again, details down below, or send me a message on Instagram and we can have a conversation. But anyway, brother, I hope this has been useful and valuable for you. As always, like, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.